I'm on. Everybody's microphone's on, podium's on. Welcome, everyone. I'll call this Board of Works meeting to order. It is 9 o'clock Tuesday, January 7th. This is our normally scheduled Board of Works meeting. Nancy, would you start out by giving us roll call?
Thank you. All four of our members that are with us at this time are in the council chambers. Andy Jones.
Present.
Rose Rivera.
Present.
Mike Macklin.
Here.
Ronnie Davis.
Present.
We have one member that's absent at the moment, and that's Jamie Arce, but we are a quorum. Thank you, Board.
Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
And then I need a motion to amend the agenda to remove under utilities notice of violation for Simonton Lake Conservancy District.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All those in favor of the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Election of officers. The motion to nominate a president and vice president.
I would move to nominate Mike Macklin as president and Jamie Arce as vice president.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All those in favor of Mike Macklin as president, Jamie Arce as vice president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The landslide.
It is. It is. Red and blue states. Let's see, we now have scheduled a public hearing on the preliminary engineering report addendum to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program.
Hi, good morning. I'm Samantha Rushlang with DLZ Indiana, and this addendum is the second one for the Oakland A loan, which was the first project in the Oakland Long-Term Control Plan. And this is just an addendum to add in Oakland B as a project, which has gone out to bid, and the low bidder was Selge. And this is just to ensure that change orders can occur during this project if need be, and then we don't have to do this process any faster during construction. So that way it's just all ready to go.
And the process is now us to ask staff questions. Who knows the process requirements? Do you? Are you?
Yeah, so this, after the board approves this addendum, then we just have to send that this got approved and the public notice advertisement to the Indiana Finance Authority. And it just goes through their system as a review, and then they check the box that the Oakland B can be put into the Oakland A loan. Because a letter was already previously sent to IFA to add this to the
Got it.
project.
But the steps of the public hearing. Can you help us? Are there formal steps that we need to take?
As far as I know, you just have to allow the public to speak.
Okay. Well, let's start with questions for Samantha to begin with. Any questions for Samantha or staff? None from the board. Okay, I'll then ask if there are any comments from the public about this proposed preliminary engineering report addendum. Any in the chamber and any online. We'll note again that if you're online and wish to speak, we have to have a close to live image of you. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, return it to the board. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor well, no, we just closed this. There's no action. Is that right?
The action actually takes place under engineering administration on the agenda.
Okay, so I'll close this public hearing at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. All righty. Minutes from the regular December 27th meeting.
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes for December 27, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Engineering Administration, Oakland Avenue Project A PER Amendment Number 2.
I move that we approve Amendment Number 2, revising the 2023 Oakland A Preliminary Engineering Report to include Oakland B construction.
Second.
Motion and a second. Tori, does this would then have to change the SRF loan amount?
No, that's not the, we have a loan already for A and B.
Oh, okay.
When A finishes and we have leftover proceeds, all of those leftover proceeds can then be applied to B.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Amendment Number 2, revising the 2023 Oakland A Preliminary Engineering Report, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. President, I move that we award bid number 25-01 for street materials 2025 bid to the various contractors who submitted the lowest responsive bids at the unit prices included in their respective bids as presented in the bid tabulation included with this memorandum.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jeff, all low bidders or were any pushed out?
No, everything was as expected with this materials bid, yes.
Other questions for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we award bid number 25-02 on-call street and drainage construction 2025 bid to the various contractors who submitted the lowest responsive bids at the unit prices included in their respective bids as presented in the bid tabulation included with this memorandum.
Second.
Motion and a second.
In this matter, we actually only had one bidder.
Oh, okay.
Premium
That explains.
Concrete. But we wanted to use just similar language. Yeah, one bidder, prices increased as expected, nothing out of the ordinary. And this is the contract we started doing last year. We split this out of the bid process. This is doing the materials. This is doing actual work.
And was it used very much last year?
Probably 3 or 4 times for a total of less than $200,000 would be my estimate. We do both the engineering group as well as Buildings and Grounds works very hard to quote projects instead of using this one if at all possible.
Okay. Other questions for Jeff? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we award bid number 25-03, Utilities Materials 2025 bid, to the various contractors who submitted the lowest responsive bids at the unit prices included in their respective bids as presented in the bid tabulation included with this memorandum.
Second.
Motion and a second. Kind of redundant. No. Per design. Anything unusual here? Did all
No.
the low bidders get?
Yep, all the low bidders, pretty much the same bidders that we normally deal with. Price increases that were as expected.
Other questions for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve change order number 1 and final for quote number 24-21, Hunters Pond to Brookwood Drive Drainage Project, increasing the contract value by $3,409.67, resulting in a contract price of $68,989.60.
Motion and second. This is one and final.
Yes, one and final. The biggest change here was we used a little more stone than was anticipated. Both this project and the next small drainage project, we were very fortunate in December. We got an 1.5 inch rainfall, so we got to test these out early, and we're very happy with both of them.
Is
They've
this
worked
the one where you buried the
Yes, this is
whale?
parallel to Surrey Lane. There was an old concrete line swale there, was difficult to maintain. Now we have a pipe and stone, and so basically we've created a underground channel rather than an above ground channel. It's worked well. Seeded and strawed, hoping that grass comes up in the spring, and we've got a nice project.
All righty. All those in favor of change order number 1, bringing for contract 2421, bring final contract price to $68,989.60, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve change order number 1 and final for quote number 24-22, Worthmore Avenue Drainage Improvements, increasing the contract value by $857.75, resulting in a contract price of $69,278.50.
Second. Motion and a second. Anything outstanding here?
No, nothing significant here. A little bit more curb than we expected. This was a section of Worthmore that really didn't have any drainage. It had an old dry well that didn't work. We had a second dry well, and the other thing we did here was put curb on the street so we can better direct the flow to the 2 dry wells. Again, had a chance to see this operate during our 1.5 inch rainfall. Very happy with the result. The residents have been very complimentary and excited, and then pushed all their leaves on top of the new dry well. But we'll fix that.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor of change order 1 and final for contract quote 24-22, bringing the final contract price to $69,278.50, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve change order number 1 and final for quote number 24-28, Wolf Avenue Drainage Improvements, increasing the contract value by $10,143, resulting in a contract price of $99,965.
Second. Motion and a second.
The biggest change here is this is on the north side of Wolf Avenue between Ashland and Prairie Street. That's where there was a lot of parking in the tree lawn, and this project added the gravel pave system for better parking. We also replaced some dirt driveways with concrete drives. In doing that, we had to replace 46 square yards, so about 450 square feet of sidewalk that was unanticipated. That was due to damage from the excavation and that sort of thing. So that's the biggest part of this change order, is replacing that sidewalk to fit in with the driveways.
That's also that grass pave is working out there so far.
This is gravel paved, a little different, but so far so good.
Okay.
We probably need to do a little bit more robust edging between the gravel pave and the grass itself. We're going to look at that in the spring. But so far so good, and again, the residents are pleased with the result.
Great. All those in favor of change order 1 and final for contract Q 24-28, bringing the new contract, the final contract total to $999,965, signified by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize the board president to execute the professional services agreement with United Consulting for the Indiana Avenue Underpass assessment with a fee not to exceed $30,000.
Second. Motion and a second. What are we doing here, Jeff?
The Indian Avenue underpass. The underpass itself is fine. The main concrete retaining walls under the bridge, I apologize, excuse me, are in good shape. What we've struggled with over time is the stacked block walls at the other corners of the intersection as you come up to the underpass. And there was just a lot of, we would probably do it differently with different construction methods today. And so we have about, over the years, I want to say there have been about 3 or 4 assessments that have been done. We did some assessments ourselves, monitoring the lean in the wall. There's just been a lot of work done on it, and the goal of this is for United to look at all those assessments, do a site visit, and then propose some really simple solutions. For example, they're going to look at, right now, the top of the wall has just stacked block caps on it. And if you walk around there, you see that those have been moved, they have disappeared, they have fallen down, they're all over the place. You know, it doesn't make more sense to say pour a cap on top of the wall so that it's a continuous that can't walk away. We don't have the best drainage for some of that stacked block wall. Do we go ahead and put some weep holes in? So we've talked with them with a number of different ideas. I think they have some ideas coming into this. The goal for this contract is to come back to us and say, hey, here's the 3 or 4 different ideas that aren't going to cost a bunch of money that will stabilize this situation. That could include, for example, on one of the corners, removing the wall completely. You know, we remove the wall completely, we regrade it better, we work with the property owner, that sort of thing. So that's really the intent, is bringing a new set of eyes, look at all the different possibilities here, come up with some simple solutions that we can implement yet this year, and, you know, just kind of do a general cleanup on that wall. We get a lot of complaints in that area because, you know, you see the stacked block falling over, that sort of thing. It's an eyesore as much as anything. So that's really the goal of this, is some stuff, whether it's a contractor that ends up implementing it or we implement it ourselves, we can come up with some simple solutions.
This is mostly aesthetic problems. We're not looking at because there's some major walls there. We're not looking at a catastrophic failure.
We don't see any evidence of catastrophic failure. United's going to look at that as well. We don't have that concern. This is mostly aesthetic issues. We have talked about some items such as, do we need to place some reinforcement on the exterior of the wall, some tie beams, that sort of thing? Can we do that in a way that looks attractive, that doesn't look like we just slapped some steel beams on there and drilled them in place? So that's all. We're really kind of giving United free rein to kind of think creatively here of what is the best solution. But do it in a way that makes it a lot more attractive and a lot more resilient, so we're not out there every single year making various fixes.
Other questions?
Yeah, Mike,
Go ahead.
you touched on it a little bit. How old is that structure?
2003?
What?
It was built during, right, at the end of Dave Miller's first term.
Oh,
Yeah, 2003, 2004 is my recollection.
That's pushing, 22 years.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously the wall has never performed the way we had hoped it has, but it's also 20 years old. So,
By the nature of the surface, it's going to be more susceptible to freeze thaw in that because it's open pore. The other are just strictly concrete, and they're less susceptible to the ravages of the weather.
the system that Prairie Street uses is the more modern system. That's the system that Hively will use. That's the one that's a little more resilient. If we could do it, if we could go back in time to 20 years ago, we'd say, hey, let's use the Prairie Street system, though I think that was pretty new 20 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have that option. And it would be very costly to try and retrofit that with that type of system. So, but we think there's some solutions here. In our discussions with United, we've been excited that they've got some ideas, and I think they're going to put something together that we can work with.
Good. All those in favor of this contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, for purposes of discussion, I move that we find Norfolk Southern permit number 85-27 in violation for failing to respond to notice of violations issued on November 13th, 2024, and assign a penalty of $750.
Morning, Stephen.
Second.
And a second from Ron.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
Steve Brown, Pre-Treatment Manager. 1 second here. What we have here is a notice of violation, is a failure to respond. Norfolk Southern, they failed to respond to the issued notice of violations. They were issued on November 13th. One of them was for failure to self-monitor in July of 2024, and the other two were for late self-monitoring reports for August and September of 2024. Just want you guys, the board, to know that those two penalties for late reporting for August and September were both rescinded due to us, Public Works, now receiving postmarked submittals for self-monitoring reports. But all in all, Norfolk Southern still had obligation to respond to the notices of violations.
So I apologize, I didn't read this real carefully at home, but you had 3 NOVs, and the first one is failure to conduct required testing at $500. That isn't a failure to respond. So should our motion be amended to include that? Number 1 on my memo says, Norfolk Southern, failure to conduct required self-monitoring, assess a penalty of $500. It doesn't, that, number 1, doesn't say anything about reporting.
Yes, that's correct.
So we have 2 issues here. 1, failure to do the testing, and 1, failure to do reporting on a different test, or failure to respond.
Yes, there's violations. The violation for this July has already been brought to the board, and the board has already assessed a penalty for that.
Okay.
What we're doing today is just addressing the issue that they failed to respond to these 3 notices of violations.
I understand that. Sorry to be difficult, but did you say 2 of these were already waived because of the postmark, or
That's
2
correct.
different ones were waived?
Yep, the late submittals for August and September were both rescinded. Those penalties were rescinded.
Okay, then what's the 750 for?
And the 750 is for failure to respond to these 3 issued notices of violations. So the first notice of violation was for the July. The next one was for August. Third was for September. All 3 of those issued notices of violations require a response, and Norfolk Southern failed to do so.
Okay, I assume legal's reviewed this and is comfortable with it? Okay, I'd like to talk to you 2 afterward. All those in favor of approving this violation, not approving violation, but approving this penalty, and assess a dollar amount of $750 to Norfolk Southern, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Chair, I move that we approve the delisting of Atlas Chem Milling Industrial Wastewater Discharge Permit number 85-16 located at 1627 West Lusher Avenue.
Second.
Motion and a second. What's up, Stephen?
Atlas Chem Milling, they've decided to close their doors, and they've also requested that their permit be terminated are delisted. Pretreatment staff has been out to confirm that no chemicals or hazardous chemicals are left on site. They have not run production or process since late 2022. So
But you guys, before you sent this to us, you did verify that.
that's correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Great. All righty then. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the professional services agreement with Barnes and Thornburg for legal consultation services.
Second.
Motion and a second. Huh?
Looking for it, but I don't see one.
Yeah, I don't see one either. No amount listed. Boy. Who's with the legal department around here? Oh, there's two of you. All right, no amount listed. That's okay. I don't think that's an issue. You have a motion and a second.
Okay. Corporation, May Marnoka, the board's attorney, Corporation Counsel, requested that I speak to the board on this. He is wanting to hire Barnes and Thornburg with regard to advice on terminating, oh God, doesn't the memo say?
Tax abatements?
Yes,
Termination of tax-
terminating tax abatements.
Well, this little taxpayer appreciates that. All right.
I agree.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Oh, we might need to amend the motion to authorize Corporation Counsel to sign on our behalf.
That was a motion.
Second.
That was a second. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public participation, I'm desperate to get done before Jamie gets back, I hope you realize. Public comment, anyone in the chamber having comments? Seeing none, anyone online reminding you that you would have to be visible in your camera? Anyone have comments, wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close public participation and look for my favorite motion of the year.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion and a second, we are adjourned. No, not on the motion to adjourn.